When FunSpot Atlanta decided to open up Air Force One, they were taking one of the biggest risks in theme park history. To open such a massive roller coaster at such a small park was unheard of at the time. But let's dig deeper. Was FunSpot blazing a trail for other small theme parks? Was Air Force One a mistake? And what does this mean for the rest of the FunSpot chain? Well, let's find out. So the addition of Air Force One was really shocking to everyone. No one expected FunSpot to do this. But let's start off with our first question. Did FunSpot blaze a trail for other smaller parks to add massive attractions like Air Force One? Well, I personally think that's what FunSpot was trying to do, but I'm not sure it worked. Now, I heard that Air Force One did really well on its opening day, bringing in a ton of people to the park. But I really haven't heard of any significant attendance increases at FunSpot Atlanta. And Air Force One cost $18 million, which is a massive investment for FunSpot. I think FunSpot was hoping for a much larger increase in attendance. So when other theme parks look at how Air Force One is performing, they'll see loss of potential. But unfortunately, they'll see that FunSpot's attendance appears to not have risen significantly, which could deter many smaller theme parks and chains from building such a large-scale attraction. And there are many mid-scale investments that could seem more appealing than such a massive attraction at a smaller park. So unfortunately, when looking at everything, I do not think this is maybe the path that a lot of smaller parks should be taking. I would say that a smaller park would be better off making smaller incremental investments over time. And once their attendance has risen enough, I would say take a break for like 2 or 3 years and accumulate enough money for a larger investment. So I think maybe FunSpot should have waited a little longer before adding Air Force One, and maybe added some other smaller scale attractions over the next few years. So I don't think that FunSpot paved the way for smaller parks to get massive attractions just like that. Moving on to our second question. Was Air Force One a mistake for FunSpot? Now, I think this is one of those yes and no answers. So let's look at it from a popularity and publicity standpoint. Yes, this coaster was very successful. It got so many people talking about FunSpot Atlanta, and ultimately did bring a decent amount of people to the park. And it just made the general public more aware that this park and this coaster exists. And honestly, think, when FunSpot Atlanta announced this coaster, when people actually got to ride this, everyone was talking about FunSpot Atlanta and Air Force One. That spread a ton of publicity for the park and the coaster, and that probably got a lot of people thinking, oh, maybe we should go check out FunSpot Atlanta and new Air Force One. But as I said before, this coaster cost $18 million. That is not a small investment for a park like FunSpot. And as I said earlier, I'm kind of wondering, was FunSpot Atlanta built up enough to really support this massive attraction? And honestly, when you look at what rides and coasters they feature, I would probably say no. Again, I think FunSpot Atlanta, it might have been smarter for them to hold off a couple more years and really build up the park before adding this massive attraction. Because I feel like this coaster would have consistently brought in a lot more revenue and attendance if the park was built up a little more around it. And yes, I get that FunSpot Atlanta was really trying to make a splash, but sometimes patience can really pay off. For example, I think if FunSpot had decided to put in like a Gerstlauer Eurofighter or even a Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster, that would give people another really big reason to visit FunSpot Atlanta. Because there are probably a lot of people who visited FunSpot Atlanta to ride Air Force One and just immediately left. Now if they had 2 coasters, that could capture some of the market from Six Flags over Georgia and get more people in the door. Now I understand that 2 coasters is not cheap, but I really feel like that if FunSpot had just waited a little longer and added another pretty decent coaster, I really feel like Air Force One could have made it much bigger and on FunSpot as a whole. So is Air Force One a mistake for FunSpot? I'm gonna go borderline no. I think all the publicity should hopefully pay out in the long run, but I really feel like they should have been a little more patient and added another supporting coaster. And now on to our final question. What does this mean for the rest of the Fun Spot chain? Will they continue to work with RMC? Will they go with another manufacturer? Or will they just kind of sit back and pay off the money from Air Force One? I bet that Fun Spot is very conservative with their investments for the next 5 to 10 years. I also think Fun Spot really wants to see how Air Force One performs in the long run before they consider putting it in another park. Now, would it be great to see all the Fun Spot parks get massive RMCs? Absolutely. I mean, an Air Force One at every Fun Spot park would be amazing, but that's really not plausible for a company like Fun Spot, or really any company in the amusement park industry. But we do have to look at some other coaster types and models that the Fun Spot parks could potentially see in the near future. As I said earlier, the Gerstlauer Infinity and Eurofighter is for a park the size of Fun Spot Atlanta. It won't be super expensive, but you're still getting a coaster that should be very popular. I also feel like a coaster like the Vekoma Family Boomerang could be a huge hit for a park like this, because these parks do in general appeal more to families. So Family Boomerang would absolutely fit perfectly at a lot of Fun Spot parks. Think, you get a moderate thrill ride, but the whole family can still enjoy it, as long as with younger kids. So it kind of appeals to all of Fun Spot's audience, because us coaster enthusiasts can come and get an extra credit, but then all the families who are visiting get another coaster that they get to enjoy alongside like Air Force One. And the RMC Raptor is not a horrible option either. It's a little more extreme than obviously a Family Boomerang and stuff, but it's on the level of Air Force One, and that could really beef up the thrill ride selection at any Fun Spot park. And again, it would get people talking about Fun Spot, spread publicity, spread the word, and it could really get a whole lot of people in the door. And an RMC Raptor is a whole lot cheaper than a massive RMC Hybrid. So I would look out for Fun Spot putting in some smaller investments to their various parks the next, probably decade. But when that time is up, if Air Force One performs well, I could for sure see one of their larger parks getting an RMC Hybrid or a Raptor, or like a Eurofighter or something. But I doubt that Fun Spot is going to be adding any major coasters the next decade. I just don't think it's plausible for them at the moment. But if Fun Spot wants to prove me wrong and add a massive attraction to all of their parks the next decade, then that would be amazing. But as always, I guess we'll have to wait and see. So that's a wrap on my thoughts on what's next for the Fun Spot chain. If you enjoyed the video or found it informative, then hit that like button and subscribe down below. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.